Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Thousands in Turkey protest arrest of Istanbul mayor.
Thousands in Turkey are protesting the arrest of the Istanbul mayor. Ekrem İmamoğlu is one of the biggest rivals of current Turkish President Erdogan. Turkish police arrested the mayor and other opposition party figures as part of investigations into alleged corruption and terror links. But some experts say the arrest is politically motivated.
So they are against the arrest?
Yeah, so a little backstory, a little what I know is that there was an election and I don't know if there was an election or whatever, but the current president, he arrested like his biggest rival in the election.
Because he lost?
I don't know if it happened already or if it was getting to happen and he saw that polling was
And he was losing?
yeah, and he arrested him.
Oh, that's
So
not very
it's giving a little Putin situation, yeah.
Wow.
and aimed at blocking İmamoğlu from running a 2028 run. İmamoğlu shared this.
But kind of crazy though. How
Wow.
many these
That's brave to do that.
yeah, how many protests are going on in Europe right now?
Yeah.
Message just moments before.
I guess to be fair, there's a lot in the States too. We're protesting a lot of Trump is doing with the immigration and whatnot.
But listen, like, if he lost,
I don't know if
that
it
means
happened
everyone.
already. I'm hoping they're gonna cover in this. I'm not sure on the details. I just know a little quick backstory.
This
That's
is
it.
him.
Police raided his home, saying, "We are facing great tyranny." ABC News foreign correspondent Tom Sufi Burridge is tracking that story for us. Tom, how is this different from other arrests of journalists and opposition figures that we've seen there in the last few years?
Yeah, I think, Diane, because Mr. İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, is such a formidable opponent of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the Turkish president, and really because of the reaction of the authorities and the demonstrations which we're
Okay, so I guess the election hasn't happened, but he's a formidable opponent. So he's like a strong competitor to win the election.
seeing again today in Turkey and yesterday overnight.
You know, that's more motivation for people to vote his opponent then. Because this is very, very scary. That's what are you trying to say? If we disagree with you, you're gonna still be in power because you refuse to move and let the people decide.
Yeah, I think in that case, like it really gives him more support, more case. Yeah, it does.
Because who's gonna support dictatorship at this point? People need to travel. People need to move.
It has to be underlined that, you risk a lot going out to protest in Turkey these days. The regime is pretty repressive. Now, the government is claiming that this is a decision.
Wow, so you can't even protest, but people don't care. They're still protesting. That's how.
Yeah, this is serious.
Yeah, that's how significant it is. The protests are kind of, effy area. You don't want to do it, but they're still doing it.
Yeah.
By the courts and the security services against Mr. İmamoğlu. But he, in messages online and in a video message he posted just before his arrest, he's vowing to fight on. He's calling on his supporters to stand resolute. And, we're not seeing any sign of those protests dying down at the moment. Clashes between police and students.
And almost interesting, like back in the day, 10, not 10, maybe 15 years ago, all these could
10,
happen.
15 years? Okay.
15-ish. All of these could happen, but, the government could not easily, but they could try to hide it. But now with social, everybody has a cell phone. TikTok is live.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't hide nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna come out. It's crazy.
Student protesters on the streets of major Turkish cities in the last 24 hours. And the timing of all of this is very important. It's only days, his arrest, just before Mr. İmamoğlu was due to be declared as the presidential candidate for
a candidate. I thought declared as a president, so it's just a candidate.
Just a candidate?
Yeah.
And you're doing all this?
He's
That's,
He's scared.
his party. And also it's important to underline
Then he
that
just
he's been
lost.
stripped now of his university degree. And the reason that's important is it is a...
What now?
It's been stripped now of his university degree. And the reason that's important is it is a prerequisite of any presidential candidate in Turkey to have a university degree. So effectively...
Oh.
Wow.
So he's like,
you don't have that here.
He's trying to do a backdoor pull, like not disqualify him. I combine two languages into one.
You know, there's a TikTok trend where people's accent pop out.
Don't worry about it.
What?
I combine two languages to anyway.
What you say?
Disqualify him.
Disqualify? Wow.
Yeah, to like pull it, carpet, the rug under or whatever from him. Wow, that's crazy.
He's been nullified from standing as a candidate in the future.
But interesting,
I need the timestamp because I need to replay that.
Another that's like a debate: should presidents need a university degree?
What did you say? I went
A
blank.
debate. I'm saying it's
Because that was so funny. I went blank. What'd you say?
a debate. Should the president have to have a university degree or not?
Here in the U.S.?
In any society, should that be a
Oh,
case?
that depends for the people to decide. What do the people think? They write a constitution, they write it into law,
But,
and this
okay,
it is what it is.
Is that like in a democracy? Should that happen?
Yeah, if the
'Cause
people agree to that.
The whole idea of democracy, everybody should have a right to vote. So, but that by that logic, should everybody have the right to run?
It depends what the people decide. They could decide to add that requirement. It shouldn't be that people are impeded on from getting education. If the culture values education, people can educate themselves and still reach this privilege. But based on whatever the constitution they write for their country, it's what the people would want is what it is.
I think it is fair that you need a diploma as long as there's no cost associated to getting a diploma. If education is paid for, if you have to pay to get a diploma, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a valid requirement. However, if it's free education and all it takes is 4 years to sit in school and no cost associated with it, then I think it's acceptable prerequisite. But like here in the States, I don't think that would work, because what if you're poor, then you can never be a president.
You don't have that requirement.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically speaking, if we did, like, that would make sense, because if you're poor, you can never be president just because you're poor. That shouldn't be fair. So I think here, because the education is, you have to pay for it, that's not a valid.
Typically, a country has should have an interest of people to have education.
Agreed. I do think
that's why we require kids to go to school up until I think 12th grade.
I think so. I get it. No, it should, obviously a president should be educated, but I mean, at the core of democracy, anybody could be that's the idea, right? So money shouldn't be able to prevent, because that's elitist. That's not democracy. That's what's the idiocracy? I don't know whether there's a word for it, but yeah, just an interesting. I didn't know that about Turkey.
Tom, protesters are back on the streets today. Where do things go from here?
You see, the president, he's educated too, but he's doing this nonsense. This is not logical at all.
Well, but he's pulling the carpet.
It's hard to judge in these kind of situations. I mean, when we've seen mass demonstrations on the streets of any country against an increasingly authoritarian regime in the face of, arrests of leading political activists, it's hard to know whether the demonstrations at this point in time have enough momentum. I mean, as I said, anyone going out to those protests could risk arrest, so it's a dangerous thing to do, and therefore it's difficult to read whether or not these protests are big enough, whether or not the strength of anger and the support for Mr.
I think the fact that American news are covering it is big enough. Now, if we watch this, on like a Turkish news, or like a Lithuanian news, Lithuania is still, because it's a far country. I don't know, Greece news, because Greece is like neighboring country. That's what happens in your neighbor is kind of relevant. Then maybe not, but the fact that it made it all the way here on ABC News, I do think it's a big enough protest.
I wonder if this also will impact like Turkey's standing position in NATO.
Oh, I don't know. Potentially, yeah, maybe. What about standing position in Eurovision?
Oh yeah, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, of course, it's the biggest deal in Europe right now.
Imamoglu, and the concept of free and fair elections
I think
in
this
Turkey
is definitely gonna impact Turkey.
is strong enough and potent enough, and they have enough momentum to carry this on. I mean, I heard one Turkey-based journalist saying that this also is a kind of gamble from Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president. Even though he denies being part of this decision, his regime effectively has made this arrest possible, and if this snowballs into a much larger movement against his government, then it could risk his position. But I don't think we're there yet. At the moment, these demonstrations are happening. The police are cracking down, and the authorities are limiting the use of internet. They're trying to stop people going.
Wow.
What? They limiting the use of internet?
Wow.
So this is like real Russia.
They unpull the plug. They pulled the plug.
What are we doing here? Russia, North Korea shit? God damn.
Wow,
On the
that's
streets
North
by saying
Korea
it
now.
is illegal to gather
Legit, we went from Russia to North Korea now, but even
Yeah,
Russians have
with the
internet some
internet.
sort.
in large crowds, but that is not putting people off. The sense of anger in Turkey about this detention of this leading political figure, a challenger to the president, is so severe that at the moment the protests continue.
Tom Sufi Burridge, thank you.
Wow.
Well, abrupt ending, but
Yeah.
wow. Oof, what's going on in Europe right now?
Can I
It's
see the
crazy.
comments? What do people have to say? I like reading the comments.
I see
That's
that.
that's what I typically do after I watch the video. I go or before the video, I go straight to the
Or
comments.
during the video.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Sude from Turkey. My country's resistant and not being silent makes me very happy. We're tired of Erdogan, so he's a tyrant.
Wow.
Turkey is by far the most powerful Muslim country. Erdogan barely escaped the last national revolution. If this country was run by a real man, then many problems of the Middle East could be solved. Wow, interesting. Thank you, ABC, for covering. The world needs to know how authoritarians deal with their opponents. ABC don't see Gaza. Ooh.
I don't understand.
I guess what's going on in Israel, ABC don't show. I don't know.
Oh. Wow.
All I want to know is if the mayor is a Muslim. It matters when you're seeing Iran try to move away from Muslim rule to go back to democracy.
No.
Why does it matter? I don't think religion should play into this.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.